Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well,
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's great to be here. It's not where we wish we were, but it's great to be here, and it's wonderful to be with Paul again. We had quite an experience, and I know a lot of you think it must be just awful running for president because you got to go every night to a different hotel, and you get debate after debate after debate in the primaries and then in the general as well, and you have the adoring press always at your heels, and yet the truth is it is a magnificent experience because you get to see the country person by person, state by state, not the people who make the news. The people who make the news are by and large doing something strange or unusual or typically not good. But the people we got to see day in and day out were wonderful people. And we learned about their life stories, and it was very, very touching and it made me more optimistic about our future. So if you get the chance to run for president, do it. It's a great, great thing. The
Third time's a charm.
yeah, I made a couple of good decisions in my life. One was who I married, and the other was who I chose to be my running mate. And there was no better person to be Vice President of the United States than Paul Ryan. And
Thank you.
And if you're going to take a shot at me, you wouldn't be a bad president yourself. So we have an interesting, yeah. But we have some questions about a book that you have written this year, Paul. And I would note that I've read it, and I hope some of you have as well, so your questions can reflect that. But also, I know Paul pretty well, and as I read it, I recognized he actually wrote it. Most of the books you read that are written by politicians were not actually written by politicians. They were written for politicians by professional writers. But Paul wrote this book, I can tell, because it is his voice. It is written like he speaks, and that makes it even more touching and personal. But I want to begin by just asking Paul, the American idea, the subtitle, or maybe the main title of the book is The American Idea. What will you bring down for us? What does it mean to you, the American idea?
It's a way of life, and it's a way of life that has been brought to life by some critical ideas and principles that founded this country. In a nutshell, it's this idea that the condition of your birth does not determine the outcome of your life in this country. That no matter who you are or where you come from or how you got started, you can make it in this country. It's the land of opportunity. And it's a country that was built on an idea where our rights are ours naturally, and that our government is designed to protect those rights so that we can live in freedom and find opportunity and prosperity. No other system is quite like this one. No other country was created on an idea like this one. And the reason for writing the book, in a nutshell, is because a lot of people don't see it. They don't think it's there for them. They are worried that it's not going to be there for their kids or their grandkids. And so, if you don't like the direction the country's going, which we don't, or the policies that are in place, or the governing philosophy, which we think is crowding it out, displacing it, then as leaders, we should offer a different way forward. And that's why I decided to do that, because the whole point of this is the American idea and maintaining that legacy of each generation, securing it for the next generation, like our parents did for us.
And that is, without question, something we subscribe to. At the same time, there are a lot of people who'd say that American idea has not worked for them or for their life. There are a lot of people in this country who are poor. A lot of people who are in the middle class who are saying it's harder and harder to make ends meet. and they look around them and they watch TV and they see the rich and famous doing extraordinary things they can't afford, and they ask, why is it that some people are doing so much better and I'm not doing as well as I could? How do you deal with this growing income inequality, wealth inequality, and the issue of poverty? You spent some time really looking at poverty in a novel way, and your book describes that, but give us your thoughts on dealing with, if you will, the income gap, the wealth gap, and the extent of poverty in this country.
And this is something that I talk a great deal about in the book. My friend Bob Woodson is sitting here with us tonight because for the last couple of years, we've been touring around America, meeting with people who are triumphing over these difficult circumstances, who are fighting poverty eye to eye, soul to soul, person to person, and doing it very successfully. And there's some incredible stories that I tell in this book about that. Now, to your bigger question, there are a couple ways of looking at this. You can look at the status quo, which is as you just described it, and a lot of people don't think that that opportunity is there for them. They're trapped in generational poverty, or they're in a situational poverty, or they're a middle-income person, running hard on the hamster wheel and just not getting ahead. And so what kind of an agenda and what kind of principles do you need to reignite this opportunity, this upward mobility, economic growth, a healthy economy? And I go through all of that, but at the end of the day, I would say, with respect to poverty in particular, we're at the 50th anniversary in the war on poverty. We spent trillions on this, just from the federal government, and we had the highest poverty rates in a generation. Deep poverty is the highest since we've been recording it. And I think you could easily argue that success in this war on poverty has been measured based on inputs. How much money are we spending? How many programs are we creating? Not on results, not on outcomes. How many people are actually getting out of poverty? How many people are finding that American dream? How many people are actually getting from where they are to where they want to be in life? And I think that requires a systematic review and overhaul of our approach to fighting poverty, and it means the government needs to be respectful of civil society, of our communities, of those who are actually doing a good job of fighting poverty, and the federal government needs to play a more significant role in mining the supply lines, not the front lines. In so many ways, the federal government displaces all those great things that are actually happening in our communities that can really bring people together, stop isolating people, and get them out of poverty. In so many ways, the inadvertent casualty in the war on poverty is it has told the common American taxpayer, this is government's job. Just pay your taxes, we'll take care of it. That's not true. It doesn't work like that. Everybody needs to get involved. People with faith, people without faith, with money, with time, with love, with whatever, and reintegrate and bring people back together in our society. And so there's a whole series of reforms that I call for, and I'm not one of these people who thinks I have it all figured out. Believe me, this is a very humbling thing to do, to look into and research this, but I want to get this conversation started. Because if all we do is measure based on inputs and talk about status quo, then we will never actually have the kind of conversation, therefore then the reforms to actually break this cycle of poverty. Instead of manage it, actually solve it. And it also means a really strong, healthy, growing economy. And the policies in place today, based upon the philosophy of governing that is triumphing in government today, is holding people back. It's hurting economic growth. It looks at the economic pie of life as some fixed, static thing, and that it's the government's job to redistribute it, when our goal ought to be to grow the pie for everybody, remove the barriers so that people can blossom and flourish and really have a strong, growing economy. And so, I won't go through the whole book tonight, but basically what I try to do is articulate core principles and policies that flow from that to reignite this American idea, because I really do feel it's under duress. I feel like we're going in the wrong path, but the good news in this story, and I tell these stories of these amazing, heroic Americans from all parts of this country that have done incredible things, the seeds are there. The comeback is there. We can have this comeback in this country. We just have to get a few basic things right. And I have every bit of confidence we can turn things around and get ourselves and our country back on the right track.
Paul, you for those that have read the book, you recognize that Paul contrasts two cities, Detroit and Janesville. I would have expected Detroit and Chicago to be a more natural comparison. I grew up in Detroit, and big Red Wings, a couple of Detroiters here, Red Wings fans.